Okay, so this is, and I usually lose track of the episodes. I believe we're in episode 10 right now in the podcast, and I'm absolutely buzzing for who we have on here. And we actually have somebody very different. Previous guests have been, diving into appointment setting, or they, managed appointment setting teams, but we actually have somebody that's right now in the recruitment space within the high ticket world. We have LJ. Now, I know we have a lot of guys based in the US, but she's actually based here in the UK. And, of course, with her being in recruitment, she's also had a huge sales background, actually one of the biggest, bits of background that I've seen. So currently she is the founder of Sales Closers, which is a recruitment agency for appointment setters for closers who want roles. I think it's all across Europe, right? US as well. It's not just the UK.
Yeah, US as well. It's probably actually about 70% of what we do is in the US. So whilst we're global and I am UK, it's very much, yeah, across the globe.
Absolutely. And also an expert in high integrity sales. And I can say this from speaking with her team members, very integral people, always want to do the right thing by others. They are very clear and cut, very good morals from, from the experiences that I've had with her team. So, as far as track record, so over 2 decades of experience in high-end sales as well, generating over 35 million in revenue, which a lot of people would be happy with 5 million over their career. So 35 is pretty staggering as well. Has actually done lots of training as well for businesses, helped them to scale not just with the sales, but in all different departments as well, and has closed deals from 2K up to 120K. So loads of different high ticket backgrounds as well. And yeah, I just can't wait to dive into it. Or of course, you've mentioned a lot here, but is there anything you would like to address about maybe your past background? Anything you'd like to say about what I've mentioned? I've done the best I could, I guess, with
Yeah,
that intro.
that's pretty thorough, Taylor. Thank you. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. It has been an interesting journey to get here. So, like you say, it's kind of 25 years experience now in high-end sales, kind of showing my age. Straight out of uni, and I've done everything from being hands-on sales myself to hiring teams, being in sales recruitment as well, even in the corporate world. So I've always been in and around this, and when it comes to actually closing in high ticket sales, I was doing that before I think even Zoom came around. So I was closing on Skype back in the day. I think when you and I first spoke, I shared that with you. So technology has evolved, thankfully. The market space has got busier for sure. And what I would say is it's one of those industries, as I'm sure you know, you've got to just constantly stay abreast of the changes that's happening. It's like what we're seeing happening in 2024. When I started in the world of, online marketing kind of a decade ago, just those strategies are no longer working. It was like kind of you were closing at that point and people were just buying because it was new and it was not as competitive a landscape as it is now. So it's just constantly fluid and changing, but it's exciting, right? Like that's the thing I love about it. It's high energy. You get to use your brain every day. It's like when I was in corporate, I just felt like it kind of sucked the soul out of me a little bit, in terms of the types of sales it's doing. What I love about this space is just being able to be who you are fully, bring that to the cause and your experience. You don't have to put on a mask. And you get to be surrounded by really amazing people. Like it's just yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm sure you do too, otherwise you wouldn't be in it. So yeah, no, excited to
Yeah.
see where our conversation goes today. But that's kind of me in a nutshell, going from corporate to post corporate, and then closing myself to starting an agency, because the doors just kept opening in front of me. Anytime I shut one, it kept reopening. So you kind of got to follow the signs, if we call them those, that are being put in front of you, and then yeah, here we are. So yeah, that's me in a
Makes sense.
nutshell.
Got it. Yeah, and obviously there's been lots of experiences you had. I want to go a little bit back to the beginning.
Hmm.
As far as because a lot of people, when they think of sales, I don't think anybody grows up and they don't think about, oh, I want to be a sales professional when I'm older. They think I want to be a fireman, astronaut, the typical, whatever that might be. So, first of all, how and why did you get into sales? And another thing is, why are you still in sales? What's kept you in it? So those
25
two
years
things.
later. Yeah. Believe it or not, Taylor, I may be the first person that you've met that actually targeted a career in sales. I was like,
Okay, fair enough.
believe it or not. And I know I am unique in that because most people do fall into it. Most people do. However, coming out of university, I'd racked up a bit of student debt. And I'd spent some time working in a recruitment company just over like a summer where it's very much sales driven, generating prospects, filling that. And I was like, oh, wow. And I could see the kind of level of income that these guys and girls were making. So I actually made a beeline for sales. I was like, it's I'd done a bit of tele sales before, back in the day. This is definitely showing my age now, where we literally were given
Did telesales too? Don't worry, I feel
yeah.
a bit old as well now saying that.
Good. Well, literally, when I did it, this may not be the case for you. We were given strips out of the telephone book and a phone, and they were
Oh, the
like,
yellow
we did not
pages.
have
Okay.
computer. It's
Oh, it's
like,
only been more then. I'll shut up.
and it was a case of dialing with a script. So yeah, I'd made a bit of, and actually I was pretty good at it. I think I'd come from, for me in school, I enjoyed drama and things like that. So it was performing. And I think that's kind of how I viewed sales at the time. I was, I'd kind of done public speaking and these kind of things. So it was using my voice and performance skills I saw that, and I'd studied business as well, and it kind of brought all of those things together. So that's the reason I got into it. I've got to say though, my first real job, it was a bit of a baptism of fire. I mean, it really, the company I worked, I mean, they're now blue chip, but at the time it was kind of Wolf of Wall Street stuff. I don't know if you're familiar, those kind of environments, very male driven. It was like, guys standing up, doing they would have sold their granny for £1. And I kind of rocked up to this office, and it was a massive open floor office. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, I was horrified. Some of the the
Yes.
tactics and
What
this
was you
and the
selling? Is it like
bravado,
stocks or?
recruitment services.
Oh, it was
So
recruitment, right?
yeah,
Okay.
recruitment services back then. So that was and it was into banks. So kind of, I suppose, similar, that people always make the joke that recruiters are the poor cousins of the traders. Uh,
Oh, okay. New to me.
yeah, no, I've heard that before. But yeah, it's that kind of world where it's work hard, play hard. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I am not going to survive here at all. But I put my head down and got on with it. And yeah, I think it was probably in my second month, I did a 9K deal, against an average that other people were doing the time around 5K. And I did it without sacrificing my soul in the process. I did it literally just by picking up the phone, building relationships, doing what I said I was going to do, understanding people, and that's kind of, I carved out my own way. So I was kind of in the corner just trying to get on with it, and in the hope that it would work, and it did. And that's kind of how I carved out my sales. So that, like I say, that was 25 years ago. So I imagine a lot of sales floors are very, very different now, but it was heavily male driven, heavily tactic driven at the time. And yeah, so that's to answer your first question. That's why I got into it. That's kind of my first experience in that. Why I stayed with it. Again, just following doors that opened up in front of me. I was really fortunate. I mean, that gave me a really great grounding in terms of, because we were working 12-hour days at the time, weekends, anything else felt, part-time hours to me. So I ended up canvassing myself. Like, I knew how to do this, like picking up the yellow pages
Okay.
and canvassing myself out to companies that I wanted to work for, because it's like, well, I can do this for other people, I can do it for myself. So literally cold calling businesses and set myself up about a bunch of interviews with companies that I wanted to work with, and that kind of progressed me onto the next stage. Then I was headhunted at just 25 to go and work with it was more financial services, so in insurance and that side. So I had the opportunity to go in as general manager into that company, but overseeing the sales. That business owner had a secondary business that he worked in, and he pretty much handed me the reins at 25, which looking back blows my mind. It was an incredible opportunity. But I grew that within 2.5 years from 400K to 1.4 million, and grew the staff with that as well. But it was an amazing opportunity at that age, that I didn't realize at the time. Do you know what I mean? What an amazing opportunity that was, but it stuck with me, and I was good at it. I knew I was good at it, identifying the bigger deals, growing teams, using all that experience I had. And the end, yeah, I moved back to England in software sales for a while, and then started my consulting business, and then landed. It was actually the reason I ended up in high ticket sales was my son was born, and I didn't have the same level of time to run my consulting business. It was running me ragged. I was a new mom at the time. I was like, well, what can I do to use my skills in less time and still get paid decent money for it? So again, canvassed myself out to a few companies at the time, got gigs, and yeah, 40 hours later, I'm kind of closing deals over Skype. At the time, I thought that, well, this is incredible, all the skills that I've been able to do and can do it remotely, technically from anywhere in the world, which I know attracts a lot of people into the remote sales space. But yeah, up until that point, I'd always been like a full sales cycle salesperson, generating my own inquiries, canvassing in, picking up the phone, qualifying right through to closing the sale. So I've had experience in the full thing.
Absolutely. There's just so many parts to, when like you listen to understand, you also want to respond with a question, but I've got like about 7 questions already that have popped up from all your points. You've made it hard for me, unfortunately. But no, that's a good thing. So I guess there was one thing that you mentioned that stood out is about how at 25 you did get thrown into the deep end managing that team, right? And this can go for any setter out there who maybe is looking to progress to close, to manage, to even have their own business, whatever that might be. Because I'm not here to say that everybody should be and stay a setter, right? Sometimes it's a nice springboard to other things. So,
Yeah.
first of all, were you ready for that experience? And how did you, if not, how did you actually go and make that happen? What you did in those 2 years, in a
Yeah.
nutshell, if you can.
Yeah, no, I wasn't ready. And honestly, looking back, I don't think I had any idea what I was taking on. And I think that's a good thing, but I don't think you ever are ready. That's the thing. If I look back at the biggest leaps that I've taken, be it leaving corporate or doing whatever, it's like, was I ready? No, I wasn't ready to have children. I wasn't ready to be a mum. The most amazing thing that's
Yeah.
ever happened to me, but it keeps people stuck, doesn't it? And for me, it's like, well, no, you just learn as you go. It's like, who was it? Was it Branson or someone that said, yeah, if the opportunity presents itself, say yes, and then work it
Well,
out
yeah,
later.
that's from his book, Screw It, Let's Do It. I've read that twice and it's an incredible book. Like, I'd recommend that to any setter out there, any sales person. It's a very small book as well. It's like reading a picture book for a kid. It's small, but it's to the point. It's an enjoyable book as well. Sorry, that was just a little promo for that book. I'm
Yeah.
not affiliated, but it's really good though.
Yeah, I think I've read that, and that's probably possibly what, and it might even have been at that time. But yeah, you just say yes. Hey, listen, the thing I know to be true is, like, I genuinely believe there's a path laid out for us all, and it will open up, but it will only open up if we take the first step. Like, I often say to younger women when I'm speaking to them, younger men, people at school right now, do you know, when I was at school, what I do now did not exist when I was at school. So don't limit yourself based on what you see in front of you, because life will open up as you take the step, not beforehand. Like I couldn't have sat down, even with sales closes that I'm running now, with a piece of paper, mapped out this brilliant plan for a bank manager to go, yeah, this is my idea. That's not how it unfolded. It was one step, then the next door opened, then the next door, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden we're here. But I couldn't have ever envisaged running the business in the current state it is now back then. In fact, you know, what we're doing now didn't exist then.
That's actually, it kind of relates to my situation. I'm not sure if you've seen one of my posts I made with appointment setter roles, and like it was one of those things where I didn't prepare for it. I didn't realize that anyone would have wanted the roles and they were really interested in it. All of a sudden, I put something out there, and so many doors have now opened because of that. But you're absolutely right. You have to take that first step for that to even happen in the first place, and learning as you're going, of course, helps you progress more than you just trying to wait for the perfect conditions. Which what even is that, by the way? Perfect conditions. Don't think
There will
anybody has a
never
clue on
be.
that.
No, there will never.
Um,
Everyone's just making it up. It's just like at a different level.
we don't really know what we're doing, to be honest, but we're
No,
figuring it out. I think
we
that's it,
figure it
isn't it?
out and you learn from your mistakes. I think that for me, the biggest thing is people are terrified of putting a foot wrong, making a mistake. What if?
Massive,
What will
yeah.
people think? You know, what will happen if this doesn't work? I was like, well, here's the thing, it probably won't work as you think. You know, you are gonna get people who dislike you, so what? And, you know, but it's like, what is the outcome when you do it? It's
Absolutely.
definitely a risk worth taking.
It is kind of funny because I think a lot of people are visionaries, but they're visionaries for things that they don't want to happen. And so that's what holds them back massively, right? And it's just shifting that perspective for what we want to happen and just taking at least a step forward. Um,
Many steps is
yeah.
all it needs initially. What you've got courage for today, yeah, do that, and then the next thing, and so on.
Absolutely. And I think, with coming onto I guess, your career holistically, it's, of course, you mentioned what, 25 years of experience, right? So a lot of people will be like, well, what's the best training program you've read? What's the best book you've read? What are the best things you've learned, these tactics, puppy dog clothes, whatever that might be, all these little things you can learn.
Is that a
So
thing?
like for you well, I heard it in this book. It was quite funny. He was naming like all the closes in the alphabet A to Z. It was pretty funny. Um, so I'm just thinking, like, out of the 25 years, what is, and that might be a hard one, maybe one thing that you would attribute success in sales to?
Do you know, I have done, and you're right, I have done a lot of sales, even in the corporate world. Gosh, we used to have to, yeah, go through these training weeks on the regular. But I genuinely believe selling, particularly when it comes to high ticket, the quicker you can get to a point where you can sink into your intuition and connect with someone on a human to human level, get out of here and into
So,
here, that's when it shifts, because people feel it regardless of what you say. If you're here thinking about your next question or da 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 da, you're not actually listening to what the saying is like. And actually, if you can try to drop into just your heart, your body, whatever you want to call it, it's like that space, and respond from there, that shifts everything in sales. People, it doesn't matter if you get it wrong in that case. It's like, because people can sense that you're being truthful. And there's another one, little secondary follow up there: truth, because people expect lies in sales, and it still happens over and over. But actually, again, people will sense it if it is not, even if there's an element of a white lie there, people will sense it. And they might say, well, it sounds like it's ticking all the boxes, but the reason they move forward is a feeling. And it's a feeling on something you said because they've not been truthful. So for me, it's like, I'd rather lose the deal and be truthful than not. And that, I suppose, links to the integrity piece that you mentioned up front as well. And it's why clients come to us as well, because that's what they're looking for with their clients. They want to hire that type of a sales professional.
That's that in it and of itself. There's so many different routes we could go into with like intentions, like doing everything heart centered. And I'm obviously trying to make this apply more for appointment setters. So like for anybody that's out there, like you mentioned, canvassing, doing the calls you need to, it's heavy outbound. Sometimes you can get very numb to it and realize that you're kind of making people numbers at that stage when you're numb to it. So what would you advise for those who are doing those heavy, outbound, lots of activity, but at the same time keeping it to I'm speaking with one person at a time? That's what I struggled with in door-to-door sales when I started.
Yeah,
And I felt that each time I put it onto the person I did one by one, that's when my results would skyrocket.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, any advice on that would be great.
Yeah, and I hear you on that. And I think that's absolutely key is being intentional, knowing that this is a new human with a different experience on the phone than the last one. I think regardless of what part of the sales process you're in, there's always a danger of moving into assumption because you've had so many conversations, this, that, and the other, that it's like you're assuming the same of the next person, and so on. Or you've just had a load of no's, you're going to assume that it's like, well, no, that's not actually the case. If you've had a load of no's, then there's a good chance you're closer to that yes after that, and you don't know. It's like that one piece of connection on the phone. But I would say for me, it's just making sure that there's breaks with moving about. Like if you're sitting to make calls, standing up, moving about, just change it, shake it up a bit. I know when I used to make calls, I used to even put on I was sitting at home, no one could hear me, but I literally used to put on high heel shoes because it made me feel powerful. Good.
Okay, fair enough. That's very
I don't do
particular.
I don't do that anymore.
Right,
But
okay.
whatever works for you, I suppose, is what I'm saying, to give that confidence as well, because that comes through in your voice. And it depends that day if you're setting or doing that part of the site, even closing, to be honest. If you aren't on video, then everything carries in your voice. So for me, for instance, again, this is something else I would do if I'm not on video. If I'm just doing an audio, my preference is to stand up because my voice can't, like, I'm in, again, it's easier to stay in my body rather than be up here. And my voice comes across as more confident. And it's those initial seconds that, if you don't have that confidence in your voice, yeah, gonna struggle a bit. So it's that, and yeah, breathing in the middle, taking a breath after each call as well before you go into the next one.
100%. And like, I didn't expect this interview to go on this angle where it's like it's anything but sales skills, anything but like all of the things you should say, things you should come up with. But that's crucial for any of you out there that are, stuck, got gorilla glue to your chair and you're just dialing, dialing, dialing. The reality is you're not going to take advantage of each call because the state management you need to have, we're one call away from having a very productive conversation that benefits both of you, and you're robbing that person of being able to help them if you're not showing up the best for yourself. Absolutely massive.
100%.
um
100%.
yeah.
And that, if you can just master that, sometimes it doesn't even matter what you're saying, it's like it's that feeling that's coming across.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? You may have friends out there that the type of person that like they may say something absolutely outrageous, but they get away with it. But it's just because like how their energy is and how they are. You think, oh, it's fine. It's just a them thing. They just do
Yeah.
that. And it applies so much to sales. You can get away. I'm not saying you should try and say stupid stuff. Obviously, you're going to say accidentally sometimes, but who you are is literally the top priority compared to
Yeah.
what you're saying and how you should say it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And we've all heard the old adage, emotion before logic. And that emotion is connected to feeling, and they'll get a feeling from you based on how you're showing up, what your voice is doing, are you looking after that? Even, mindset as well. It's just that little break, whatever you personally need to do to feel that going into the next call. That's absolutely key.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure to maybe a specific scenario, because I think sometimes in sales we have maybe things that we remember that changed a lot of things for us, right? And so with what you have experienced, is there any one moment that where you were able to make massive differences for yourself as far as like how you showed up in sales, improving your intentions? Because with as people we're faulty. Sometimes we do just think about ourselves. We can become selfish. We can not act out in the way that's optimal for us. Sometimes it's just how humans are. So, like, was there any one moment in your career where you kind of it changed everything for you, and helped you to be where you are today?
Gosh, that is a big question. I'm like,
It was very long. I overdid
I
that. I
know.
overcooked it a bit.
One moment. Do you know, this is going to sound like completely counterintuitive, particularly when people are probably coming looking for sales tactics or techniques or whatever else. But I hit a point that was pivotal for me. I would say 7 years ago, something like that. I was working so hard, like to the point I had full on burnout, had a breakdown. Like it was insane. And I think a lot of people in the online world will do that, particularly in sales as well. It's like, oh, come on, next sale, let's just keep working, keep working. And I hit a point where I had to completely just surrender. Like it was just, I'm done here. And I had to take 6 months. Um, I say I had to take, I did, because my body wouldn't let me work in those 6 months. And
Gosh.
that time for me was pivotal in terms of just understanding who I was, in terms of how I was showing up, in terms of looking at my relationships, my boundaries, how I wanted to work versus what had been conditioned in me from the corporate world that I was bringing through into life now as a mom as well and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was absolutely key. I can reconnected with my faith at that point. And it opened up a whole new world to me where I was like, oh, I've got it. Like I can either go back to that point and push myself or recreate life from a place of no, what are my priorities now? My family, how do I want to be in life? What time have I got available? And showing up from that place. And that kind of carries through into conversations as well. So, you get it once you've gone through something like that yourself. And most people will at some point go into that kind of ebb that is okay, the point of no return here. And they get a choice to make. But that from a sales point of view, I think the emotional intelligence that comes out of a period of self-reflection like that will carry through to create those moments of connection and empathy like nothing ever before. So I don't know, does that answer your question? That was a fairly
Definitely does. No, I was just thinking like how I could, I guess, summarize that. I mean, if it makes sense, is going through struggle sometimes and understanding sometimes and going into the darker parts. That is what will help you to ultimately understand other people as well.
yeah,
And also, it's okay for people to know that you are not perfect on sales calls, right? If you mess up, it's like, well, that person's human, and if you're okay with being vulnerable like that, that's what enables a connection in the first place. Like if we come onto a sales call and we expect we're going to be absolutely macho, we're going to be super confident, and sometimes being willing to not be okay sometimes, that's fine. That's what enables that connection too. You actually touched on something that actually, for a lot of people, it can be a subject to avoid, which is God, right?
yeah,
Having religion in your life. And
yeah,
I know for me, since I became religious nearly 3 years ago now, I feel like ever since that moment, that is what enabled me to be way more connected with people and have set principles. And for those of you who say, oh, don't have God and business in the same thing, they shouldn't be put together, the reality is for hundreds and thousands of years everybody has used those morals, right? And
yeah,
so now we detach from that, like we have created those morals ourselves, and reality is we haven't,
yeah,
right? So like Yeah, and it is a touchy subject, but I think it's very important for people to understand it. So, like, going,
100%.
becoming reconnected with God, how was that for you, and what made things better for you in your career?
Oh gosh, how was it better? I mean, it's like night and day, literally. For me, again, it's linking back to what I said. Like, my firm belief is there is a plan for each of us. Is like, and if we can connect into that, and it's almost then surrendering to that, then doors will open up for you. And I think for me, like, prayer is absolutely key. I know for some people it might be meditation or whatever else, but if I'm going through a tough season or an ebb, it's like that's life. It's like we can't avoid those things. But when I take that to prayer, take that to God, it's like that's I can leave it there and then go back. And the peace that I get from that is just incredible. Like
That's the
it's
ultimate
it's
detachment to the outcome.
undescribable. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
undescribable. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, like you say, totally unattached then. Well, if it's meant to be, if it's for me, then it will come back or whatever else. And there's help in the ether. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm no longer carrying the weight of everything myself. It's like I get to share that burden and I have help all around um to be able to walk that path. Hmm.
That is so huge because I think something I noticed about when I first started sales in door to door that I did that fully atheist at that point, relying on myself. It was all on me, right? And I noticed the
Mm.
difference between then and now doing sales with a connection to the highest power. It is absolutely night and day, exactly how you said. And I think if anybody out there that has that skepticism, that but being agnostic or atheist, I do challenge that perspective. I was there, right? And I know what it's like to live in that mode. And it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult. And in fact, you don't have to keep all of the weight on, right? But obviously, sometimes asking the big questions of why am I here? Where am I going? What's the purpose of this life? Try and get the answers to those questions. That will help you be a better human being. And ultimately, that will affect your sales career. So, as much as this can be about sales skills and mindset, ask the deeper questions. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you do have a faith, I tell that another little nugget to carry into that is like pray before your calls, man.
Right.
It's like
Yes, 100%.
if you're
Definitely.
taking God into your calls, it takes your call to a whole new level because you're praying for the right words and the right thoughts and ideas, and that point of connection as well. So. Yeah, a little
Definitely.
bit different. We've gone down a whole rabbit hole here, Taylor, but
No, well, I was going to
it's
say,
good
I wish
stuff.
we had more time, but I think this is the best part to end on because, like, it's something that people often disregard. And I know people probably might in the comments say God isn't real, or they might say, stop putting God into business. But I'm going to preach that because I think if you're not, then, it's the condition of your heart at the end of the day that you have to look into,
Yeah,
right? And there's a
yeah,
reason we're saying it. So, that's it. I think we'll leave it there. But it's been an absolute pleasure, LJ. Really, really enjoyable. And of course, you're helping a lot of sales pros out there, whether getting into the space, people that are currently in the space that want to find a great home. So yeah, talk to us about how people can reach you to receive help, and yeah, where they can reach you, I guess.
yeah. So the best place to connect with us is www.salesclosers.com. In fact, I don't think you need the www, just salesclosers.com.
Oh, it's
That's
anything
old
more, like I said,
school.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Old school, show my age again. Salesclosers.com. There is, if you're in sales and you are looking for a setting role or closing role, or we've often, I think I'd said to you, we've also got a lot of business development roles coming through now as well. Which are more full sales cycle. There is an application on there to go through just to get on our network. We do put people through a few different bits of that process from video to interview, etc. But my team are all super lovely, and I'm sure they would
They are
love to
absolutely
connect
lovely.
with you. And yeah, we got some great opportunities coming in every day.
Absolutely. I'll add those links below as well for you guys to check them out. And of course, if it does go well, you'll be connected with, I believe Vince is the main guy that does a lot of the hiring. He is absolutely amazing. He actually did the same door-to-door sales that I did. I think we actually did it at the same time, but in different
That's
areas.
cool.
He is lovely, really, really cool. There's some other guys. I don't know if I've connected with anybody else, but just Vince. But a great team. But yeah, I hope you
Yeah,
guys enjoyed
I'm
it. If you
blessed.
did, then please do like, of course, the video. Comment your biggest takeaway. There's a lot of things we covered. I think there was 3 or 4 topics all in all that we did cover. So please comment that. If you want to, expose and share us, then share the video. That's really important. More people need to hear the truthful elements of sales and not just selling the ticket all the time. That's very important. So, yeah, I'll leave it with you guys and then we'll be on to the next episode. Take care.
Thanks.